So what we heard is we lost 6 service members in an air crash over Iraq, right? In a refueling plane crash. That's bullshit. They were shot out of the sky. Also, another 5 or even 6, I believe, of our refueling jets have been completely destroyed. We have our bases are non-functioning over there. All the people have been evacuated and are living amongst the civilian populations, which is why certain civilian locations are getting bombed by Iran, because they know that that's where our military people are being, are hiding out. But we're not going to have a presence over there anymore. At the end of the day, and Iran is calling the shots now. Those guys are swinging their sack around, and there's nothing anybody's going to do about it, because they're holding up the entire world's economy, and they're making the entire world suffer, just like they've been suffering under our sanctions. And I am here for it. I friggin' love it. And I do. And, good luck to Trump thinks he's going to get the Strait of Hormuz open. Good luck with that.
Did Satan Yah, because again, Bibi, for all of his flaws, he's not a dumb guy. But did he miscalculate this? Like, did he really miscalculate the backing of the U.S. empire?
No, I don't think he cares either way. Just like I don't think oligarchs care about U.S. empire either. It doesn't really matter to him. He's just about covering his own ass and staying around as long as he can. He's a complete psychotic narcissist, which is why I don't think that he is necessarily dead. But, yeah, it's all about that. And meanwhile, he still hasn't had to face the consequences for the corruption trial that he was being prosecuted for. So, that's the whole story. But at the end of the day, he is their version of a Trump. He's just smarter in the sense that he just cares about him and his. He doesn't care about anything else. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't have an ideology. He is not religious. He is certainly not a practicing Jew. And so he's just about him. So in a lot of ways, he is like Trump. But the scary part is he's smarter. So, yeah.
Speaking of death, many U.S. soldiers oppose war on Iran, conscientious objector group says. Group says more military units have just been activated for deployment than the public knows about. Oh, you think? Could you even begin to imagine how many? What is that?
Schrodinger's Netanyahu. That's great. Do you not know Schrodinger's cat, Peter?
No.
Schrodinger's cat is I don't know what it's sort of like Occam's razor, right? It's one of these things that's a philosophical point. And Schrodinger his whole point was there was a cat in the bag, and you don't know whether the cat is dead or alive, right? You don't know whether the cat's dead or alive. That's the Schrodinger cat. You don't know what it is. So there he's saying Schrodinger's Netanyahu. And he heard, yeah, exactly. Here, it's the cat. I know. Right.
Well, the cat's out of the bag, I guess.
Yeah.
A nonprofit that assists conscientious objectors said its phone has been ringing off the hook with U.S. service members who object to serving in the U.S.-Israel war on Iran. The group's executive director said in a post on X that there was fierce opposition to the war on Iran, and that the mobilization of U.S. troops has been compared with opposition to the 2003 U.S. invasion of Iraq. The phone has been ringing off the hook. A lot more units have just been activated for deployment that the public knows about. Center on Conscience and War, Executive Director Mike Preisner wrote on X. Now, for those who don't know, Mike Preisner is the significant other of Abby Martin. This is also somebody who has served multiple tours in Iraq. So he knows what it's like being on the front lines and being involved in this. And so the fact that he's made this his life's work is not surprising. Middle East Eye reported last week that the U.S. was considering sending special forces into Iran. i.e., they have sent special forces into Iran. But there has also been speculation of a wider mobilization. The Army canceled a major training exercise for some soldiers from the U.S. 82nd Airborne Division, which specializes in ground combat. Meanwhile, in an interview with Fox News, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt refused to rule out the U.S. bringing back the draft. Oh, please bring back the draft. The last time the U.S. conscripted men to fight was December of 1972 during the waning months of the Vietnam War. Jen,
You try that, Caroline.
please try it.
Try
now.
that, Caroline.
I dare
Go
you.
for that. You see how that works for you.
Would you take over, please?
Disgust at U.S. massacre of the girls' school. Yeah. The Center on Conscience and War is a nonprofit group that supports conscientious objectors, a title given to one who opposes serving in the armed forces or bearing arms based on moral or religious principles. In the US, there is a deep tradition of conscientious objectors to foreign wars, particularly among Christian-rooted communities like the Quakers and the Amish. And this is me speaking, side note, but those people usually don't enlist in the military. So this is why I've always found it interesting that people that it's like if they don't enlist in the military because they don't believe in it in general, but the idea that there's conscientious objectors that are enlisted and within the military is what we're talking about, though. So the center said it was deluged with calls amid concerns the Trump administration was preparing to deploy troops to Iran, and that opposition was much more widespread than had been reported. Got a call yesterday from a service member facing deployment who is not only filing for conscientious objector now, but reports widespread opposition to the war in Iran within their unit, and will be sharing our number with everyone, the center said in another post on X. Good. Let this tear the military apart. Let them have a split right down the middle and see how that gets.
And you have to believe that if an article like this is coming out, that it is so much worse than what the public is actually being informed on. Like internally, it's probably a nightmare in terms of trying to keep it all together, to keep the morale up.
And I think, this is the problem for people in leadership positions. Predominantly what we're seeing are baby boomer generation age of the people. They keep running the same playbook from the 80s and 90s, and it's not working anymore, largely due to social media, but not just that. And they keep running the same playbook, and it is just not going to work. So when the big false flag comes, it's not going to work. It's not working anymore. So that's what we're watching. It's the same playbook. It's just we're seeing it now.
In particular, they conveyed disgust at the U.S. massacre of the girls' school, as well as the attack on the Iranian frigate in international waters. At least 165 people, mostly young girls, were killed by an apparent U.S.-Israeli attack on a girls' school in southern Iran's Minab. Middle East Eye reported that the school was hit with 2 strikes, with the second missile killing sheltering survivors and first responders. Reminds me of the time that Israel blew up the hospital when the hospital workers were there. Apparently they did the double tap.
Which, and again, this is one of those things where I can say that technically the double tap is a war crime, but I'm someone who believes that war is a crime. So, but it is, in fact, the double tap is a war crime. Again, nobody cares about these things. We have why even have rules and laws? Honestly, this is what I'm telling you, the anarchists, I think that they have always just been riding this horse in the direction it's going.
Do you know what the amazing thing is?
What?
Iran, for the most part, has been following the rules of engagement, and they're still killing us, while we, and particularly Israel, do not follow rules of engagement, and they're still getting destroyed.
Right.
So there is a certain amount of irony that comes with that. Following Middle East Eye's report, subsequent reporting, including by the New York Times of all places, added to evidence that the U.S. was responsible for bombing the school. A video released by Iran's semi-official Mar news agency showed a Tomahawk cruise missile striking a naval base beside the school. The Trump administration has demurred when asked about the strike, despite the mounting evidence. Trump on Saturday blamed Iran for attacking the school. Can you believe that? They totally
Well,
accept
here's,
themselves.
but I don't believe any of this. And we know that we purposefully hit the school, and we even know why we purposefully hit the school. So for people who don't know, the girls' school, the initial school that was hit in the very beginning, honestly, who knows how many schools we've hit between then and now? It's been 13 days. I mean, that could be, you know, a lot of schools, but the first school was a very high, like, I don't know if you would say high priced, because they don't necessarily, I don't know what their system is, but a very highly regarded, very elite in terms of academics, private school that we knew that many of the Iranian guards' daughters were in that school, because it's a very, like, sort of like the friendship school or friendly school in DC, where we know a lot of the Congress people and people who live in the area, a lot of the wealthy people, that's where their kids go. This was that school. So we did it on purpose. And to suggest that the Iranians would bomb their own school, even accidentally, is absurd. See, nobody's believing that. Nobody believes that.
Iran has conducted pinpoint strikes on the U.S., bombing advanced radar stations, military bases, and even the CIA section of the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh, along with critical energy infrastructure in the Gulf states. Now, as has been reported, the Gulf states that have been hit are states that specifically are backing what's going on, or are backing the West, if you will. And granted, a lot of that, I'm sure, is financial. And one of the countries that is backing Israel right now is Serbia. Serbia has been backing up Israel with more weapons. Now, granted, Israel has been paying a very hefty price to get their hands on those weapons. And of course, the argument from a country like Serbia would be, hey, if they're going to pay us, 10x what they're really worth, it is what it is. Now, of course, I don't agree with that, but you can understand that the demise of Israel is also coming at an accelerated pace, because once it's determined that their debt is unsalvageable, that they have just basically put themselves in a position where they're not worth investing in anymore, it's all going to collapse. And the other thing that you've pointed out, that we'll point out here again to our viewers, is that Kushner's out of the equation now. Kushner's not even in this thing anymore. Witkoff has been desperately trying to get a meeting with the Ayatollah, and they're refusing.
No, first of all, you know why? They don't take him seriously because we shouldn't take him seriously. He is a real estate agent cosplaying as a diplomat. He's absurd. I want to just address this. Emmanuel Wood is a war crime, whether it was a rich girl school or just a random school. Absolutely. I was just pointing out that it was a school that was known to have a lot of the elite members of the Iranian Guards' daughters in it, so that it was very purposeful that that school was sought out. I wasn't saying that's why it was a war crime.
No, but it is an example of why this is only going to get worse. And think about how many American soldiers are now dead, and we are not being told the truth about what's really going on.
Okay, another point, which I was watching, guys, you gotta, like, our favorite people are doing the rounds, like they're working nonstop, whether you guys follow Scott Ritter or Colonel Wilkerson or, Larry Johnson. But one of the things that's happened is that they've apparently closed down the portion of Walter Reed from regular use people. So it was the maternity ward or whatever, and women were told, you're not going to be able to deliver here, don't come here, and they had some reason that was something to do with, like, whatever, another situation that they were dealing with. But what the situation is that they're dealing with is casualties that are coming in that are not being reported. And so they had to apparently, and none of this is reported. You can't even find, like, this is what's really freaky, is, are we just going to eventually find out down the road when people report that their loved ones were dead, and then we just have to sort of count it by that and have, like, almost like a GoFundMe type of app that counts the people that are being dead because our government doesn't tell us? Mm-hmm. So apparently there's a shit ton of casualties that are not being reported. The hospital, I forget the name of the hospital or the base in Germany where they all start, but that's where everybody gets brought to before they are stable to come here and go to Walter Reed. That facility in Germany. And people like Larry, who have connections all around the world in these places, they know things are happening. And meanwhile, there's all these casualties that have been flying in and taking, and we're not hearing about it.
And if you want to see just how much Western empire is collapsing, or how bad Western empire is collapsing, I don't want to give any credit to the Times of Israel because they are a rag for Mossad, the Hasbara, etc. However, gamblers trying to win a bet on Polymarket are vowing to kill me if I don't rewrite an Iran missile story. Bettors are using death threats to try to get the Times of Israel's military correspondent to change his report on a missile impact in central Israel.
The problem is, you can't believe a thing that comes out of the Times of Israel. This is one of the least credible source. This is Hasbara.
It is Hasbara, but
so they're trying to make it look like this. They're trying to make it look like
the one thing that I will say that I do believe is credible here, that cannot be denied. Is there gambling on war through Polymarket? I have no doubt that there is. And is it a question of, let me see how much I can bet in terms of the death count? How many people are going to die? Heck, I mean, you can invest in oil futures right now that oil is naturally going to go up because of war. You are contributing to war and war crimes, are you not? If you invest in oil right now, to me, you are aiding and abetting death and destruction, genocide. But you get to make a few bucks along the way, am I right?
Yes. And Jay Burke is correct. Israel is prohibiting people from leaving. They've been doing that for a while. They shut that down a while ago. And of course, we're not hearing that either, but it is true.
And therein lies the rub. Polymarket is owned by Israel, or it's Israeli tech. Either way, it's an example of why it's fallen.